Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of Two Plain Sports. Today is Friday, May 19th. Not the door Memorial Day. Summer ball is going to be starting relatively soon. We got the Champion Barbecue coming up here, in about 4 weeks now. So definitely recruiting is going to start heating up for the 2024 class. So speaking of the 24 class, we're going to have an update on Xavian Sims, have some thoughts. He's announcing his commitment Saturday at 3:45 p.m. Central on 247 Sports' YouTube page. Definitely going to be watching that. He's got a top five out, so we're going to share some thoughts on him. Oklahoma is also going to be hosting Danny Okoye today as you're watching this. Oklahoma also offered a couple of players recently out of the state of Florida and Texas. And then we're going to talk a little OU men's golf. We kind of shout them out, a little Bryant Westco update after we talked about them on Wednesday. And then talk about OU softball and their regional starting today, the 19th. So let's jump into it. So the first and probably the most pressing thing is Xavian Sims out of Durant, Oklahoma. Not originally from Oklahoma, but is originally from Denison, Texas. He's got a top five out. That top five includes TCU, Vanderbilt, Oregon, Oklahoma, and I am blanking on the fifth one, Michigan State, excuse me. So he's got a top five out. He's announcing on Saturday. He recently received a crystal ball in favor of Oregon from Steve Wiltfong of 247. So, generally, Steve Wiltfong, when he enters in a crystal ball, he has a pretty good idea, and his track record is pretty solid. Now he only entered in a five confidence, and I do wonder if I know Oklahoma's not giving up on this and they're pushing him. I do wonder if Oregon is kind of making the push like a Peyton Bowen situation. There's some NIL being talked about. They're a little bit flashy. They've had a couple visits over the last month, and they're making that push. But when it comes down to it, is it enough to convince him to move away? And if I remember correctly, when he transferred out of Denison, the reason why he was transferring, he was wanting to stay in the state of Texas, was just transferring to another community because his mom moved. But for whatever reason, he got blocked for his transfer because of competitive reasons. The coaches would not let him transfer. He went somewhere close, and that's just across the border, and go play for an Oklahoma high school. So I think family is important to him and being close. I question if he, at the end of the day, is going to pick Oregon. I mean, I don't think Michigan State's really in this. TCU seems to be in it. I do question if he would truly pull the trigger on going to Oregon. Jose, what do you think on him? Do you think he's a Sooner on Saturday at 4 o'clock, or what do you think?
With this staff, they've pulled off some miracle last second things. Payne Bowen, you mentioned it. It's probably one of the best examples. Walter Rouse, he's another example. Dude was about to be going to Nebraska, I think, if I remember correctly, and he did commit to Nebraska, and then a day later he switched over to Oklahoma. Like this staff, you can't count them out. At this, I know all the crystal balls have come in. People are reacting, and I'm not gonna say it's not. There's not like a little bit of concern that Oklahoma may lose this, but it is still very much Oklahoma's. There's still a very good chance Oklahoma lands him on Saturday. They've got to just press him. They've got to show him like, hey, we want you here. You're going to be a big part of this defensive line group. You're going to be a huge part of this class. And I don't know, maybe there's also a little bit of hype with Oregon. They've picked up some recruits of late, and I believe a few of them have been on the defensive side of the ball. So maybe that helps those guys being in his ear and saying, hey, I mean, we've already kind of started this group, join us kind of thing. And it is Oregon. You mentioned it. I mean, they have the NIL. They've got a huge brand, maybe one that compares to Oklahoma in regards to just recognition. So it's not like he's really it's not picking between Oklahoma and a school where he would have to try to help revive, or bring the brand up to that caliber. Oklahoma just has to show him that it's the place for him. And it could be, especially with him potentially being an interior defensive lineman. That's where Oklahoma really needs help when it comes to the defensive line. Todd Bates. I mean, his track record pre-Oklahoma was really good. I'm not saying that. I mean, it was just 1 year last year, and he had some uphill battles. He's got to land a couple guys and not get, you know, edged at the end of a recruitment. And I don't think he wants to either. He's probably going to be pressing Sims pretty hard here over the next 24 hours.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's over till it's over. I mean, Jose mentioned with Rouse and Peyton Bowen, the guys kept going. The crystal balls coming in are concerning. I do think at the end of the day, if he does pick Oregon, it is a brutal loss for Oklahoma. It's another. You said he's from Texas, yeah, but he's another in-state kid that we would lose out on. That I think could be a big time contributor down the road. I think if it is Oregon, I think there's a lot of similarities in Oregon and Oklahoma, and I think maybe that is what's helping him lean towards Oregon. You've got Dan Lanning, who's also a defensive-minded head coach there. He's a little younger, a little more hip maybe than Brent Venables to some of these high school kids. Maybe they can relate more to him than they can to Brent Venables. A lot of those kids like the flashy uniforms and shit. I've never liked it. Even going back to high school, I think they're too much. But some kids like that stuff. The NIL is a big deal. They have Phil Knight money. There's a lot that Oregon has to offer, and there's a lot that would make sense for why he would pick Oregon. But again, I think if he does pick Oregon, at the end of the day, it's a big loss for Oklahoma, especially one that, like a couple weeks ago, guys, we were trending really hard in this recruitment, and we all thought it was pretty much a done deal. But I mean, it changes quick in this recruiting world. But I agree with you, Hose. I don't think it's over till it's over. I hope we went out. I will be bummed out if it is Oregon, but he's got to do what he feels best.
And I'm glad that you said that it would be a big loss, because some people I've seen comment on our channel say the only reason why Oklahoma doesn't get someone is because Oklahoma moved on.
People switch up when they see that it's not trending our way, and all of a sudden he's not good anymore. It's like, if you like a girl and it's, you like her hard, and then all of a sudden she starts to like Jimmy instead of you, and all of a sudden, oh, I never liked her anyway. Bitch, yeah, you did. You just, now you want to act like you don't. But we're going to keep it real on this show. We think it would be a loss if he doesn't pick Oklahoma.
It's the way of the road, bud. But the thing is, it would be a huge loss. It is an in-state kid when you really think about it. I mean, he's been in Oklahoma now for over a year. When you take a step back and look at what's still on the board for the defensive line, it's not the end of the world. But you would think that Sims would be one of those guys that was almost a slam dunk to be in this class. And when you lose out on a slam dunk, it really amplifies the importance of a guy that was more of a 50-50 feel, because it kind of feels like Williams Nwaneri is kind of 50-50 between OU and Tennessee. And there's a world where Oklahoma does not get him. And then there's also a world where David Stone doesn't come to Oklahoma. I'm not saying that either one of them won't be at OU or not. Maybe both of them will be at OU. But those guys seem to be a little bit more of the, I don't know, kind of back and forth. I know that Michigan State trended really hard for Xavian Sims, but I just felt like Sims is one of those guys that was most likely going to be in this class. And he still very well might be. And, it's just one of those things. And I just don't want people to think that it's all, there's no way he's going to be a part of this class. And even if he does commit somewhere else, I don't think Oklahoma's going to stop recruiting him. It's just like Aaron Flowers. They're still recruiting him. And he committed to Oregon. So.
Yeah, it's just a matter of what happens. If it is Oregon, I'll be interested to see if it affects any other players and maybe how they perceive Oklahoma versus Oregon when it comes to their recruitment. Like, for example, a David Stone. He's someone that's visited Oregon multiple times, been to Oklahoma a lot. Oklahoma, many people still believe is the leader for David Stone, and boy, I hope they're right. But he's also been to both campuses with Sims, I believe, and I don't know, does Sims have enough influence on a guy like David Stone to pull him in that direction wherever he goes. And if it's Oklahoma, obviously better for us. But if it's Oregon, then that battle might last a little longer than we would all like.
I think that's interesting to bring up, but I don't think Xavian Sims, no matter where he goes, has the influence. I think he can definitely help in the process of a David Stone, but I don't think he has as big of an effect as, say, like a Williams Nwaneri would in terms of that. That's just me, though.
Yeah, and it just will amplify the importance of the other guys. I mean, you got to go get yourself a Nigel Smith. You got to go get Williams Nwaneri, David Stone, Joseph Jonah, and those guys become that much more important. Or you have to start offering more players. Oklahoma does indeed lose out. I personally think he's going to pick Oklahoma after saying all that. There's just something in me telling me I think that he's going to be a Sooner. I think it's going to be really hard to tell Oklahoma no.
We'll be watching it together at the Crazy Cheeseburger Liquor Party Saturday that we're having. So we'll be able to watch it.
Yeah, a nice reference to the Trailer Park Boys for any of our viewers that watch it. We're going to have a Crazy Liquor Cheeseburger Party. So anyway, so let's move on. So talking about another guy, another local in-state guy, Danny Okoye, 2024 four-star defensive end, 6'4", 240 pounds out of Tulsa. He's currently homeschooled, the number 148 overall player in the class, holds an offer from Oklahoma, Alabama, Colorado, Baylor, Arkansas, and others. He is slated to attend and visit Oklahoma today. It seemed like, we talked about Danny Okoye months ago when Oklahoma initially offered, and there was some smoke in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it kind of just went dead. I mean, for months. And now it seems like things are starting to heat up a little bit. And when you look at his stats, and I'll let Brandon read them off, extremely talented. I mean, he's got offers everywhere. I know he's homeschooling. He's not playing the highest of levels of competition, but he's 6'4", 240, freakishly athletic, can play all over the field. There's something to him, and as Brandon loves to say, he's got the Nick Saban stamp of approval. Brandon, what are your thoughts on him? I think Oklahoma getting him on campus is massive, and that Oklahoma might be making a push here.
I agree, and there's nothing to not like about this kid when you just watch his tape, look at his stats. So as a sophomore, dude had 21 tackles for a loss, 10.5 sacks. Junior year, dropped down a little bit, finished with 16 tackles for a loss, 16 sacks, and a pick. But what's crazy is the dude who's 6'4", 250. He also ran the ball for 65 yards and a touchdown, had about 65 receiving yards and a touchdown, but also he ran a punt back for a touchdown, which I think to do that and play defensive end is that speaks to that athleticism you're talking about, and that's some scary shit. His tape is so fun to watch. There's like I said, there's really nothing size, stats, everything checks out. He's athletic as hell. You watch his tape on 24/7, you get super excited. Now, what is a little bit in a very minor concerns what you just finished with. You have to look at that level of competition and think, that's it's a little bit worrisome, but it's not at the end of the day. It's not a deal breaker. You would like to see him do this stuff against the Unions, Broken Arrows, Bixby's of the world, but that's just that's he can't control that. He's a homeschooled kid. He's dominating his level of competition. That's all he can do. I agree with you. It's huge to get him on campus. He would be a massive addition to the 2024 defensive line class if he does end up a Sooner.
I wonder if Oklahoma pushing for Danny has anything to do with missing out on Kellen Lindstrom, I believe the kid's name was. He ended up committing to Tennessee not too long ago. I can't really say much more than what you guys have already said. It's really going to be like, can Oklahoma find a way into this race? Because they really were behind, and I don't think it was a lack of their effort in this case. It really seemed like Danny just liked other schools more, and then maybe Oklahoma said something or has done something recently to pique his interest and his family's interest recently, and they're visiting Oklahoma. And the fact that I believe it's his first time at OU being in Tulsa is kind of crazy. You'd think he'd have been there at least once before, but that just shows that there was really minimal interest prior to this weekend. Now we'll see what happens this weekend. Like, can they, if this weekend comes out with talks of an official visit getting lined up for him, then you have to like where Oklahoma has put themselves in a very short amount of time. Where at one point, not long ago, this guy wasn't really on the radar for us, for fans that follow recruiting, for that to lean towards Oklahoma. After one weekend being potentially an official visitor at some point, and obviously this is just speculation, that would be huge for the defensive line and for keeping kids in state. That's been something that fans have wanted for years. It was definitely something that Lincoln Riley dropped the 8 ball with, and Venables is trying to revive that. Slowly but surely it seems like, because a lot of the in-state guys seem to be preferred walk-ons or late additions to a class. But at this point, he's going after the guys that he thinks are going to be the best for his team. And Okoye, like you guys said, is an absolute freak. He's dominating the level of football that he plays in, and you just got to hope that this weekend makes a big impression on him.
Didn't you guys mention pre-show that he or his family grew up State fans, Oklahoma State fans?
Yeah, I think I saw that somewhere, that either he grew up an Oklahoma State fan or his family, like people around him, were Oklahoma State fans. I might be wrong. I remember seeing it like a while back, and that was something that put Oklahoma behind a little bit.
See, but like outside of his freaky athleticism and stuff, if he does end up picking Oklahoma, it also just shows the level of growth he has done in his life growing up to switch from state to OU. And honestly, if he goes anywhere outside of Oklahoma State, it still shows that he has grown. He has grown and became wiser with age.
Yeah.
What 1 year can do for someone, right?
Yep. So now, hopefully, Oklahoma can really make a good impression. Hopefully, you see him schedule an official sometime, maybe for the Champion Barbecue, or maybe it'll be more for the July event, the Party in the Palace. So now we're going to talk about a couple of recent offers that Oklahoma sent out. But before we do, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything is linked in the description below. So we'll keep going. So a recent offer that Oklahoma just sent out a couple of days ago, actually on Thursday, so yesterday, is 2025, four-star linebacker Elijah Melendez out of, as I said that one time, Kissimmee, whatever I said. But anyway, so Oklahoma ended up putting out an offer for him. He's out of Osceola High School, which, Jose, I think you pointed out that is where Derek LeBlanc came from. And so Oklahoma's going back to the well here, going back to the high school. And in the last week, I mean, not only has Oklahoma thrown their name in the hat, Michigan State has, Texas A&M, Georgia. His recruitment is really starting to explode. I looked up some of his stats, as far as what's on Max Preps. It doesn't really wow you per se. Last year as a sophomore, he had 13 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss. He played a little offense, rushed for 74 yards on 15 carries. Nothing really, jumps off the stat sheet, but he was also a sophomore. Florida high school football is pretty competitive. I wouldn't say it's at the level of Texas high school football, but it's still up there. And I think this is a guy that they looked at. He's got a good frame. He's got a high ceiling, and obviously it's not just Oklahoma that thinks that. Brandon, what do you think about Elijah Melendez? Again, I know when they're offering these kids, 2 years out, and that's when recruitment really starts, and even before then, it's tough to really see what's going to stick and what's not going to stick. But at the end of the day, they've gone to the high school recently, gotten a big prospect out of them. There is a world where they can get him here, and I would imagine Derek LeBlanc knows him.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. So it's obviously going to be a while before this kid decides anywhere on where he's going to go to college. Most likely, obviously, he can still make a commitment. 20, 25 kids do it, but likely it'll take a minute. But like with damn, I can't think of his name. We talk about him all the time. The receiver, Westco. Well, like with Bryant Westco, the initial thing was it doesn't hurt that his sister's on campus, and obviously that's not a thing anymore. But it doesn't hurt that he probably knew Derek LeBlanc or knows Derek LeBlanc. Obviously, Derek LeBlanc's a little bit older if this kid's only a sophomore and Derek just finished high school. But maybe they still communicated, hung out a little bit, or at least ran around in the same circles, so that it doesn't hurt. He's like you mentioned his frame, 6'2", 220 is a pretty damn good size for a sophomore. He's only going to get bigger, stronger, faster. But it's just going to take a while. Hopefully Derek LeBlanc can be in his ear. They can be teammates for a season or two before Derek, moves on to the NFL or whatever is next for him after his time at OU. And hopefully down the road he is a Sooner. Talking about Elijah Melendez.
Yeah, I'm watching the huddle tape he has. I think it's impressive. The stat sheet might not show big numbers, but he has a nose for the ball. And there's something about Florida players. You mentioned it. It might not be as competitive as Texas, but to me, and in my head, I categorize it as Florida football, Texas football, and California football. You got California football, a little bit more pretty, flashy. You're going to get a lot of skill players out of there more than likely. Texas, kind of hard-nosed. You're going to get your grinders out of there. And then you got Florida football. That just brings a different level of swagger. And I bet Brent Venables has something in mind when it comes to recruiting Elijah Melendez, especially when you go back to the well, like you mentioned, from where Derek LeBlanc came from. Todd Bates probably has really good connections there. Venables probably has really good connections there at this point. So why not go back there, try to get a very talented linebacker, especially at a young age. Brandon, something you mentioned, the size that he already has as a 16-year-old. He's in 2 years. I mean, he is in high school, so he probably won't pack a lot of pounds. But if he gains like 10 pounds in the next 2 years, coming into college at 250, right? You said he was 240 right now.
He's about 220, 225.
220. So if he comes in at 230, 235, like that's not bad. You can put muscle on him pretty quickly once he's in college, and he can dedicate more time to hitting the weight room, eating more. Eating right. It's going to be something that they'll work with him, but I think he would be really exciting to get, especially just watching him. I don't think the numbers really show how talented he really is.
We'll see, and hopefully Oklahoma can become a force in this. Again, they're trying to make the pipeline coming from the state of Florida, excuse me. So hopefully they can press him, and we see some development. So another guy that Oklahoma recently offered is out of the state of Texas. DeMarco Murray went out and offered DeAndre Ryden, a 2025 four-star running back, 5'10", 195 pounds out of DeSoto, Texas. So just, in the northern part, northern DFW area. Last year, as a sophomore, 199 carries, 1,354 yards, and 18 touchdowns, and had about 108 yards of receiving yards last year. He was the Texas District 11 6A Offensive Newcomer of the Year as a sophomore. DeSoto's obviously extremely talented. Again, he's a talented player, just averaged under 7 yards a carry. Playing at DeSoto, 6A, Texas high school football. You're playing at one of the most elite levels of college or high school football. Talented DeMarco Murray. This is the type of guy that I feel like DeMarco Murray is going to pique his interest in, being from DeSoto, and the way that DeMarco Murray's recruiting right now. I'm not saying he's going to be a part of this class, but I feel like if DeMarco starts to press him, he very well might be. Jose, what do you think?
He's very talented. You mentioned it. As a sophomore, helped in a big way with a state championship team. Emmett Jones is going to be very important if Oklahoma wants a legit shot at Ryden. It seems like Texas and A&M have a really good presence in that area. For whatever reason, they just recruit that high school really well. And Oklahoma, not that they don't, but Texas and A&M are able to just come out on top more often than not. But Emmett Jones, I believe, has really good connections at DeSoto. He might have coached there at some point in his career, so this is another reason why he was brought into this staff. to start getting into some of these high schools that they haven't had the best luck in, and really start building up that Dallas presence again, just overall in the state of Texas. So we'll see. I think he should improve. The numbers that he had last year were impressive. I think he had just shy of 1,400 yards rushing. So more than likely going to be a more important part of that offense in DeSoto. We'll see what he does this year.
Yeah, you mentioned it, Brum. My favorite thing to look at with running backs is the numbers, obviously, like with any receiver or any player really. But so we had 1354 on 199 carries, so it comes out to about a 7-yard per carry average, which again is my favorite stat. I think to average 7 yards a carry on 200 touches is really impressive, especially to do so as a sophomore, where he's still young, still learning, still getting better at the game. I think as he goes on with his high school career, he will average better than 7 yards a carry. I think he'll have more yardage, more big plays. To score 18 touchdowns on 200 carries, again, I think that's a pretty good percentage there. So that stuff's impressive to me. That's the stuff that I really like to see. He's about 5'10", 200 pounds as a running back. I think that's really good size. And again, he's a sophomore, so he'll get a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, a little bit stronger. He's got the Nick Saban stamp of approval. I think he would be a big addition to the 2025 running back room. We're still looking for that first 2024 running back. Could it be Caden Durham? Could it be Taylor Tatum? Could it be other? Who knows? But, I think as long as DeMarco's there, similar to like what I say about Bill Bedenbaugh, the running backs are going to keep coming, just like the O-line are going to keep coming. And hopefully DeAndre Ryden down the line is a Sooner.
Hopefully so. Something, again, it's a long way out, and we're going to have to keep a close eye on it. So kind of a nugget that Jose mentioned was that 2024 5-star wide receiver Bryant Westco. Just a quick update on him. It seems like that he's going to work on an official visit with Oklahoma, even though he released a slate that did not include Oklahoma as far as officials go. So it seems like he's going to make a visit up to Oklahoma, ideally before he makes his decision sometime mid to late summer. Hopefully it's saving the best for last. Brent Venables, Emmett Jones, and Coach Levy put the full court press on him and get it done and take care of it. Another couple final thoughts. OU softball playing today against Hofstra. I'd imagine it should be a run rule. They should be able to get out of the regional with probably minimal, effort as far as sweating it out. Probably will run rule. I'm hoping anyway. But and then talking OU men's golf, they got second in their regional. They're going to play for the national championship out in Scottsdale, out in Jose's neck of the woods. Maybe you can make a trip out there and see the boys play. But those are the last things. So, Brandon, do you have any thoughts on any of those three topics?
Go golf, go softball. I think softball's going to win it all. Bryant Westco, I think it's good that they are trying to get a visit in there. OU baseball's getting their ass kicked on Thursday night, May 18th right now to Oklahoma State, which sucks, but there's still a couple games in that series. Hopefully the boys rally and can take that series from the Cowboys. That's about it. But, yeah, the big thing I think that I'm looking forward to this weekend is softball. It's that time of the year where the softball team makes their run and do what they do best and just dominate, and I'm excited to watch.
The only thing I've got, not really even on that topic, but shouldn't it be the Kirby Smart stamp of approval now?
No, it will always be the
back-to-back national.
You can have your own stamp of approval.
All right, the real one, the one that matters now, because Nick Saban might be washed. Who knows? Just throwing it out there. Might be
ridiculous.
Just like Bill.
He's the greatest college football coach of all time.
I'm not arguing that. I agree. But in this moment in time, Kirby Smart's got his number. Yeah,
well, now his 42-year-old quarterback's gone, so we'll see if Kirby Smart can still win games out there with Brock Vandagriff or whoever the hell's playing. Or it could be Dylan Riley. No, that's next year. So, yeah, he's fucked. Brock Vandagriff is not that guy.
Not the guy, pal. So
his 30-year-old's gone.
All right. With that, Brandon, what's your individual challenge for the people?
Yeah, it's softball time, boys. Like I said, I'm excited to watch the Norman Regional. It's the start of the postseason run. It all starts here. So, are any of you guys going to the Norman Regional that watch the show? I'm sure we have some people out there. It's an exciting time for softball. we're not going to be making the regional, but I do intend to make, a WCWS game or two. It's a lot of fun out there. So that'll be the end of video challenge. How many of y'all are going out to support the softball team this weekend?
All right. Be sure to leave your comment. Hopefully we got a handful of people making their way down there. You made it this far. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked in the description below. And we will catch you guys next week.